Don't mess with me, pork chop. What day is this?
It's February 2nd. Groundhog Day.
You know, I thought it was yesterday.
Oh.
How much woke could a woke Chuck woke if a woke Chuck could Chuck woke? I think that's what DC Comics is trying to prove this week, or at least within the last quarter. So obviously we had the latest news on Jon Kent, Superman, now LGBTQ plus representative. Now that certainly hasn't ever really been a problem with within the Wonder Woman mythos. Well, maybe it hasn't been a problem lately. It certainly has been established that Diana Prince herself is bisexual, but that is not enough. Now we know that one of the new characters that has been introduced in Nubia and the Amazons #1 is in fact the first trans Amazon as part of the Wonder Woman lore. We learned this from writer Stephanie Williams. Many of you will likely ask, who the fuck's Stephanie Williams? That's a good question. When I saw Stephanie Williams show up as the co-writer of Nubia and the Amazons along with Vita Ayala not too long ago, maybe 3 months ago in the solicitations, I said, never seen that name before. Apparently she's a webcomic creator. She herself is a queer black woman. Vita Ayala is a non-binary trans black woman. Shocking that when you put the two together to co-write a Wonder Woman Amazons related comic book, that they decide to take the opportunity to push the woke factor at DC Comics. And it certainly doesn't feel like there's any pushback from DC Comics. It feels like there's probably push forward. It's probably why they put them onto the title to begin with. So in a series of tweets, Stephanie Williams confirmed a fan theory that character Bia is in fact a trans woman. And in her words in the tweet, she says, the answer to your question is yes. There are trans Amazons. Now, that doesn't really make sense within the lore of Themyscira or the Amazons. It's been established for 70, 80 years, right? 80 years. But hey, that's not really of significance to DC Comics when it comes to pushing their social agenda lately within their own comic books with their characters. She continues, there are trans Amazons. One of them, the newest Amazon, is a black trans woman. Shocking that a comic book written by a black trans non-binary person would project a black trans character into the book. Hey, are they projecting themselves? I don't know. They might have a different personality than Vita Ayala altogether. Who knows? Now, this news, of course, coincides with the launch of Nubia and the Amazons, as well as the 80th anniversary celebration of Wonder Woman. Is this going to be a hot issue? I don't know. It sounds like the Jon Kent Superman issues have become very hot after this news. And although it kind of makes you wonder, or it makes you think, man, like a new trans character in DC Comics is like apparently like the lowest like hanging fruit possible. When Jon Kent, like 5 weeks before he was even going to have his first kiss, there was a press release. There's pictures out there. Every news media outlet in the freaking world was covering the damn thing like it was the biggest thing ever. Here, we don't have actually a lot of trans characters within DC Comics, certainly not within the superheroes. And you have a new trans character being introduced in the Wonder Woman mythos. It's a tweet from somebody that nobody that reads DC Comics has ever heard of or read, unless, of course, you picked up the very first issue. Some of you may wonder, how do you get a trans Amazon into Themyscira within the Wonder Woman lore? Well, you just start making stuff up. You take the Well of Souls, and you kind of use that to your advantage. Now, it is mentioned by Stephanie Williams that the two set to create her and Vita Ayala to create a series that would be welcoming for all women, including trans women, and realize the Well of Souls itself would be a good way to introduce the new character. The Well of Souls is the gateway through which women are brought to Themyscira and become Amazons. The creation of Bia, of course, is the latest in a series of moves from DC Comics to include more diverse sexual representation in its stories. Of course, we've seen Tim Drake has come out as bisexual within Batman Urban Legends. And of course, we had the enormous press release because apparently it was very important now that Superman is going to be a bisexual LGBTQ plus character within Superman Son of Kal-El. In fact, they told the entire world about it. They didn't tell anybody about this one. Unless you knew who Stephanie Williams was, you wouldn't know about it. But listen, what can you say at this point? DC Comics is pushing a hard progressive agenda using its characters, its lore, its stories, its platform. These characters don't belong to us. Batman, Superman, Wonder Woman. We're just lucky that they're willing to make any stories for us, apparently. It certainly does feel like they're trying to run off longtime fans of DC Comics. Not because longtime fans of DC Comics are against trans people or LGBTQ plus characters. It's because longtime fans of DC Comics are invested in the characters and the lore, and they're doing everything that they can, in my opinion, to undermine that in order to push forward what it is they would actually like to do with these characters, which is quite apparent. It's not to tell good stories anymore. It's this. It always leaves you speechless. You don't even know where to go with this stuff because it's like it's another week. It's DC Comics. It's Tuesday, so another character or some more lore has to be destroyed at the altar of progressivism and an agenda that's being pushed forward not just by DC Comics but certainly by Marvel Comics, certainly on the independent scene, and certainly, and when I say independent scene, I mean like Image Comics and some of those publishers, and certainly all over entertainment. I'm going to have a very interesting conversation tomorrow with Doug Ernst joining me on the channel tomorrow afternoon to kind of talk about this. Obviously, that was recorded before this news came out. I don't know. What do you guys think? Within the lore of Themyscira and Wonder Woman within DC Comics, can you have a trans woman character on Themyscira? It doesn't seem to make sense to me. But hey, maybe you or somebody out there can explain it to me in the comments section. Or if you say absolutely not, I would like to hear from you there as well. What do you think about these changes from DC Comics? It feels like they're pushing a little too hard. But hey, if you really wanted to push longtime readers away to try and usher in a new audience, and based on everything we saw this week, this will certainly be lauded by not only the comic book media, comic book creators, certainly lauded. Somebody will pick this up, within mainstream entertainment, and they'll get the write up on Hollywood, on the Hollywood Reporter, whether they need it or not. Obviously they didn't think this was quite as important or as newsworthy as Jon Kent Superman having a boyfriend, but we do have the first trans Amazon within Themyscira. Definitely want to hear from you guys. And hey, what are you gonna do? It's DC Comics. It's Tuesday. Another enormous change and push for woke culture within comic books. If you enjoyed this video, please give it a like. I would appreciate it very much. It helps us attract more views for the channel. Subscribe for future commentary, comic book news, and reviews. And don't forget to ring the bell for notifications. If you want to talk comics, movies, and much, much more, you can follow me on Twitter at Wes_from_TC. With that, Salamat Po, and I'm out.